Have you ever wondered why some people completely transform their lives just by doing small, repeated things every single day? I used to think success was something huge, like a big moment, a magical turning point. But then I met a man named Mike. There was nothing special about Mike. He wasn't more talented than others. He didn't have a head start in life. But he did one thing. Every morning he woke up at 5 a.m., took a 15-minute walk, and learned 5 new English words. Nothing impressive, except he did it every single day, without missing a day, for 3 years straight. When I saw Mike again after some time, he was working as an interpreter for an NGO in Africa. That's when I realized real change doesn't come from giant leaps. It comes from small, steady steps, taken consistently. Welcome to Jackson English Stories, where we don't just learn a language, we learn how to live better, one day, one step at a time. In today's video, I'm going to share with you the secret behind people who stay consistent and why they're the ones who always win in life. You'll discover why your brain loves repetition and how to use that to your advantage. The 3 biggest enemies that stop you from sticking to a habit and how to beat them. A simple 3-step formula to help you start today. Whether you're learning English, working out, or chasing any goal in life. And if you've ever started something, then quit because you didn't see results. If you've ever thought, maybe I'm just not good enough to succeed, then this video is for you. Take a seat, take a deep breath, and let me show you why sometimes. It's the small things repeated over time that create something truly extraordinary. Let's begin. When I was a kid, I believed in magic. I thought that if someone became wildly successful, it must have come from some magical moment, a big breakthrough, a flash of greatness. And honestly, that belief didn't just disappear when I grew up. It simply changed shape. Instead of waiting for a fairy godmother, I started waiting for inspiration to strike. Waiting for the right moment, the right tool, the perfect environment. I told myself things like, if I just find the right method, I'll become fluent in English in 2 weeks. Or when I have more time, I'll really start working out. But you know what? The inspiration never came, and neither did the magic. I remember once reading an article about a young man who became a millionaire overnight by investing in crypto. Overnight success, they called it. It sounded glamorous, but when I looked deeper, I found out he had spent 6 years before that learning to code, blogging, and working day and night when no one was watching. The night he became a millionaire was just the final result, the tiny visible tip of a massive iceberg beneath the surface. We live in a world where everything moves fast. News, social media, search results, and without realizing it, we start expecting our personal growth to move just as fast. But learning a language, building a habit, or becoming a better version of yourself, it's nothing like downloading an app. There are no lasting shortcuts, no magic switches, only small, quiet steps taken every day that almost no one sees. If you've ever quit something because you felt like, I haven't achieved anything after a week, then maybe you're being held back by the illusion of instant success. It makes you compare your journey to someone else's finish line, and it blinds you to the beauty of the process. And here's the small but powerful lesson. Don't measure your worth by how fast someone else is moving. Measure it by how consistently you show up day after day without giving up. Because when you stop waiting for magic, you start creating magic with your own 2 hands. And to do that, you need to understand one simple but incredibly powerful concept: consistency. not perfection, but the act of coming back, repeating and continuing even when no one is watching. So, what is consistency really, and how can you start building it? Let's dive into part 2. Most people, when they hear the word consistency, think, oh, it just means doing something regularly every day, right? But consistency isn't just repetition. It's a quiet promise you make to yourself. A silent commitment that doesn't shout but never fades. I have a friend named Sarah. She once had a big dream of learning to play the guitar. In her first week, she practiced for hours every day. Her fingers were sore, she tackled advanced chords, and binged dozens of YouTube tutorials. By the second week, it was down to 30 minutes a day. Week 3, just a few minutes, here and there. By week 4, the guitar was collecting dust in the corner. Sarah didn't lack motivation, she lacked consistency. Now let me tell you about Emma, another friend. Emma wasn't very skilled either, but she set a tiny goal: play for 10 minutes every night before bed. Didn't matter if she was busy or tired, just 10 minutes. After 3 months, she played her first full song. After 6 months, she was writing her own short melodies. The difference wasn't talent. It was the simple act of showing up every day, even if just for a little while. So what is consistency really? It's doing what you said you would do, even when you're no longer excited. It's making time, even just 5 minutes, to prove to yourself that you matter. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing just enough to move forward every single day. A person who studies English for 5 minutes a day consistently for a year will go much further than someone who studies for 5 hours but only a few times a year. And the reason is simple. Your brain doesn't respond to intensity. It responds to repetition. Here's the small but powerful takeaway from this part. Consistency isn't something you do. It's who you become. Once you understand that, you'll stop asking, do I have enough time today? And instead, you'll start asking, how will I keep my promise to myself today? And if you're still wondering whether those small daily steps can actually lead to big changes, the next part will give you the answer. We're about to explore why tiny actions, when repeated long enough, can create surprising, massive results. I once had a student from Brazil named Lucas. When he first came to me, he could barely form a full sentence in English. But instead of trying to learn everything all at once, Lucas focused on just one thing. Every day he would learn 3 new words and speak for 5 minutes in front of a mirror. No pressure, no exams, just a tiny habit repeated daily. 6 months later, Lucas had built enough confidence to apply for a job interview with a multinational company in São Paulo. And he got the job, not because he was naturally gifted, but because he understood the power of micro-progress. You see, we often overestimate what we can do in a single day, but underestimate what we can achieve in a year. If we just keep moving forward, one small step at a time. Let's do some simple math. If you learn just 1 English word a day, by the end of the year, you'll have over 365 new words. Just 5 words a day? That's 1,825 words in a year, enough to understand over 80% of everyday conversations. And it's not just about language. Imagine if you spent just 10 minutes a day jogging. In 1 month, that's over 5 hours of training. In a year, that's more than 60 hours and a noticeably healthier body. The numbers don't lie. And the magic is this: you don't need to do anything huge. You just need to do something small for long enough. Like a tiny seed that's watered every day. You won't see it grow in a few hours, but you never doubt that it is growing. Real progress is quiet, but it never stops as long as you keep showing up for it. Here's the small but powerful lesson for today. You don't need to change your entire life overnight. You just need to plant a seed and water it every day. But what's actually happening inside your body, especially in your brain? When you repeat those small actions every single day, why does repetition, even in tiny doses, have the power to reshape how you think and behave? The answer lies in how your brain is designed to learn and adapt. And that's exactly what we'll explore in the next part. I still remember the first time I learned to drive a stick shift. My left hand was shifting gears. My right hand was gripping the wheel. My right foot was on the gas, left foot on the clutch, and my brain felt like it was going to explode. I honestly thought, there's no way I'll ever be able to do this naturally. But just a few weeks later, I didn't even have to think about it. I shifted gears by instinct. I could hear the engine and know exactly when to change without ever looking at the dashboard. Why is that? Because it's the power of your brain and the way it learns. Whenever you repeat an action, whether it's learning a new word, typing, or brushing your teeth, your brain forms connections called neural pathways. And every time you repeat that action, those pathways grow stronger. It's like a trail through a forest. The more people walk it, the clearer it becomes, the easier it gets to follow, and eventually, it turns into second nature. Scientists call this process neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to change and adapt through experience. What that means is, you're not born a good learner or a bad learner. You train your brain to learn day by day. Here's an example. If you practice speaking English for just 5 minutes a day, your brain will start to get used to the sounds, the pronunciation, and how sentences are formed. At first it feels weird, but after 2, maybe 3 weeks, you might suddenly realize, wait, I just thought in English without translating. That's not magic. That's neuroscience plus consistency. Here's a small but powerful lesson to remember. Mastery doesn't come from natural talent. It comes from giving your brain the chance to repeat long enough to make it familiar. But even if you understand that your brain loves repetition, even if you believe in small steps, there will always be something that holds you back. Some days you'll feel tired. Some moments you'll feel bored. And sometimes that quiet voice inside will whisper, just skip today, it won't matter. So what is it that really makes us stop even when we know we should keep going? The answer lies in the next section. We're going to explore the 3 biggest enemies of consistency and, more importantly, how to overcome each one gently but firmly. Because if consistency is the road to success, then these are the roadblocks that try to steer us off track. And they're not external enemies. They're the old habits, the false beliefs, and the tiny whispers in our mind that slowly convince us to give up. Today, I want to share with you the 3 most dangerous silent enemies of consistency and how to defeat each one. Enemy 1, the all or nothing trap. Have you ever told yourself, I'm too busy today. I can't fit in the full hour of study like I planned, so I'll just skip it. That's the all or nothing trap. We often think, if I can't do it perfectly, why bother at all? But that's one of the biggest mistakes we can make. Real-life example. Mark, a friend of mine, made a bold commitment to hit the gym for an hour every day. Week 1 went great, but during the second week, his schedule got crazy back-to-back meetings. Instead of doing just 10 minutes, or even taking a quick walk around the block, he stopped completely. and eventually gave up. How to beat it? Use the rule, never miss twice. If you skip today, make absolutely sure you show up tomorrow, even if it's just for 2 minutes, because 2 minutes keeps the habit alive. 0 does not. Enemy 2, the motivation myth. We wait for inspiration. We wait to be in the mood. But here's the truth. Motivation isn't what gets you started. It's what shows up after you take action. Example. I once coached a student named Jenny. She only studied when she felt ready. The result? She'd study once every 3 weeks. Then feel frustrated for not improving. One day I told her, just open the app, study for 2 minutes. That's it. No pressure to be perfect. She did it and ended up studying for 15 minutes. Starting, no matter how small, creates momentum, and momentum builds motivation. How to beat it? Stop waiting for feelings. Build tiny rituals instead. Study English while brewing coffee. Listen to a podcast while washing dishes. Action comes first, the feeling will follow. Enemy 3, the distraction spiral. You open your phone to study, then tap on a notification from Instagram. 30 minutes fly by and you've completely forgotten why you picked up your phone in the first place. Distraction is the sneakiest enemy of all. Example, I once had to use a trick. Leave my phone in a different room and only take a watch with me. Sounds extreme, right? But it freed up my focus more than any productivity app ever did. How to beat it? Turn off notifications. Set up your study space ahead of time. Journal, headphones, water. Use the 2-minute rule. Just start. No overthinking. Here's the key takeaway. Consistency doesn't get destroyed by big storms. It gets slowly eroded by tiny wins you don't notice. But if you learn to spot those wins and block them, you'll never drift too far off course. Now that you understand why consistency is fragile and how to protect it, let's move on to something even more important. How do you stay consistent, not just for a few days, but for months, even years? The answer lies in building sustainable discipline, not based on emotion, but on systems. In the next part, we'll explore motivation versus discipline, why one will fail you. Some mornings you wake up energized. Everything feels aligned, good weather, great mood, clear goals. You're excited to tackle the entire to-do list. But other mornings feel heavy. You open your eyes and just want to pull the blanket back over your head. Where's motivation then? Nowhere to be found. That's the problem with motivation. It shows up unannounced and disappears without warning. And if you rely on motivation to keep a habit going, it'll abandon you the moment you need it most. Real-life example. I had a student named Daniel. He was on fire during his first week learning English. He studied for over an hour every day, did every assignment, and even listened to English podcasts while driving. But then life got heavy, work got hectic, family issues came up. Daniel lost his motivation and stopped altogether. 1 week off became 2. 2 weeks became a month. Why? Because he was relying on emotions instead of a system. Now meet Linda. She's a full-time working mom of 2. She knows she can't wait for motivation to show up, so she created a fixed routine. 6:30 a.m. to 10 minutes of exercise, 6:45 to 5 minutes of English on her app. 6:50, start breakfast for her kids. Linda doesn't study for long, but she shows up every single day like it's just part of life. No drama, no waiting for inspiration, just discipline. So what's the real difference between motivation and discipline? That's what we'll explore next. Motivation, discipline depends on emotion, depends on commitment, comes and goes, steady and consistent, starts fast, stays for the long haul, tied to outcomes, tied to the process. One of my favorite pieces of advice is this: Don't rely on motivation. Rely on structure. You can't always control your mood, but you can control your habits. Here's the lesson for this part. Motivation gets you started, but only discipline, quiet, and steady takes you to the finish line. So, how do you start building a system that's simple, light, and strong? How do you turn small actions into natural parts of your daily life, like brushing your teeth or making your morning coffee? In the next part, I'll show you how to design small, sustainable habits that stick and stay with you for the long run. Let's dive into part 7, Make It Stick, How to Design Habits That Last. I used to think that building a new habit required willpower, like I had to fight with myself every single day. But the truth is, habits don't have to be hard. You don't need to fight, you just need to design them the right way. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't do it because you love brushing your teeth. You do it because it's already part of your natural system. So how do you turn a simple action into a lasting habit? Behavioral scientists suggest a simple but incredibly effective formula. Trigger, action, reward. 1. The right trigger. Every habit needs a clear starting point, a moment that reminds your brain, hey, it's time. Examples: after making coffee, study English for 5 minutes. Before going to bed, write 2 lines in your English journal. After turning off your alarm, do 3 minutes of exercise. Instead of asking, when should I study, attach your habit to something you already do every day. 2. Make the action too small to fail. One of the most common mistakes: setting goals that are too big. Study English for 1 hour every day. Just one busy day and you're likely to give up. The fix: start ridiculously small. So small you can't say no. Examples: 1 new word per day. 2 minutes of shadowing. Record yourself saying just 1 sentence. You can do more if you want. But even if you only hit the minimum, you still win. 3. The emotional reward. You don't need to buy yourself a gift after every study session, but the feeling of, I did it, is incredibly important. Use a small notebook to check off each day you complete your habit. Or try a habit tracker app to see your streak grow longer over time. That feeling, even if it's tiny, triggers dopamine in your brain and makes you want to come back tomorrow. Real-life example. Ben, a software engineer in Texas, used to struggle with sticking to any habit. But after applying this simple model, every morning while making coffee, open his English learning app. Study for 3 minutes, mark A in his notebook. 3 months later, he had learned over 200 new words. But more importantly, he didn't have to try anymore. It had become part of his life. The lesson from this part? You don't need iron willpower. You just need a smart system small enough to maintain, clear enough to remember, and enjoyable enough to want to repeat. And now that you know how to design a habit that sticks, the next step is this. Find inspiration from real people who've made it happen. Not celebrities, not distant superstars, but everyday people just like you and me, who stayed consistent and saw real results. In the next part, I'll share a few real-life stories to show you that tiny acts of consistency can lead to extraordinary results. Welcome to part 8, Real Stories, Real Results, Proof that it works. You know what? Sometimes what makes us truly believe isn't advice. It's not a formula. It's a story. A real story about a real person, someone who's not a genius. Not more special than you, but they made it for one simple reason. They didn't quit. Story 1. Luis, 43, Mexico. Luis had been learning English on and off for over 10 years. He knew some basic vocabulary. He could write a few sentences, but every time he had to speak, he froze. One day, Luis decided to try something new. 5 minutes of shadowing every morning, even if it was just repeating a few simple lines from a YouTube video. No fancy textbooks, no memorization drills, just 5 minutes a day consistently, no breaks. 6 months later, Luis called me in English. Not perfect, but confident, clear, honest. Story 2. Jasmine, single mom in Florida. Jasmine once said, "I don't have time to learn. I have to work, cook, take care of my kid. Learning English feels like a luxury." But then she tried something simple. She listened to English podcasts while doing the dishes. Then she wrote down one new word a day in a notebook. Little by little, her daughter started copying her. "Mommy, what's this?" And they began learning together. Today, Jasmine can respond to emails in English, hold basic conversations at work, and most importantly, she feels like she's doing something for herself every single day. Story 3. Amateur runner. Thomas wasn't learning a language, but he was someone who used to give up a lot. Every time he signed up for a gym, he trained hard for 2 weeks, then vanished. Until one day, he set a new goal. Run 1 kilometer every day, rain or shine. On day 1, he didn't even last 8 minutes. But he marked Ebracht on his tracker. On day 100, he completed his first 10K race. Not because he was fast, but because he never missed a single day. The takeaway from these stories? None of these people did anything extraordinary. The only extraordinary thing they did was keep showing up. Doing one small thing every day long enough to see results. And you can start your journey too with something just as small. 1 English sentence a day, 1 page of a book, 1 quiet minute to breathe. But for this journey to truly belong to you, you can't just copy someone else's plan. You need to create a system that fits your life, your habits, and your personality. Let's explore that in the next part. Build your personal system, not someone else's routine. One of the main reasons people give up isn't because they're lazy, and it's not because they're incapable. They give up because they're trying to live on someone else's rhythm. I once worked with a student named Brian. After watching a video titled Millionaire Morning Routine, he decided to give it a go. Wake up at 5 a.m., meditate for 30 minutes, study English for an hour, hit the gym. The first week, he felt amazing. By the second week, he was burnt out. He told me, "This just isn't me." And he was right. There's no one-size-fits-all system. System versus routine, the critical difference. A routine is someone else's schedule, you're just copying it. A system is a chain of behaviors you design to fit you. It's designed to make consistency feel easy, natural, and sustainable for you. So, how do you build your own system? Let's find out together in the next part. So how do you build your own system? Here are 3 powerful steps. 1. Understand your own rhythm. Are you a morning person or a night owl? Do you have 15 minutes free after dropping off your kids or 10 minutes after dinner? A good system should fit your life, not the other way around. 2. Choose the format that feels right. If you enjoy writing, keep an English journal. If you love listening, try podcasts or audiobooks. If you're action-driven, try shadowing or voice recordings. Don't force yourself to learn the way someone else succeeded. Learn in the way that feels natural and connected to you. 3. Start with the 1% rule. Just improve by 1% each day. You don't need to change your entire life, just do a little better than yesterday. Real-life example. Emily, a night shift nurse, once believed she could never learn English with her chaotic schedule. But instead of forcing herself to study at fixed hours, She chose to listen to 5 minutes of a podcast during short breaks. Write down one new word each day on the sleeve of her scrubs. 1 word a day, 7 words a week, nearly 30 a month. And she's been keeping that up for over 6 months. The small lesson in this part: a good system doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be something you can return to even on the days when you're tired, busy, or far from perfect. So here we are. You've come a long way, from understanding the truth about consistency, to overcoming obstacles, to building lasting habits, and now designing a system that's truly yours. But perhaps the most important thing still lies ahead. Are you ready to begin today with just one small step? Let's step into the final part. The one commitment that changes everything. Start today. Imagine standing in front of a door. Behind that door is a better version of you, a more confident communicator, a healthier, stronger body, a person who no longer delays but takes steady action day by day. But the key to that door isn't a perfect plan. It's not a surge of motivation. It's something much smaller. A simple commitment you make today. This commitment doesn't need to be big or dramatic. It can be as simple as, I will learn one English word each day. I will record one sentence every morning. I will walk for 5 minutes before I shower. What matters most isn't what you do. It's that today, you choose not to delay anymore. Real life example. One viewer once messaged me, Jackson, I started with just 1 minute a day using an English learning app. It felt silly, but it was the first time I actually kept a habit for more than 2 weeks. 6 months later, he messaged again in English and told me he had just completed his first interview with an international company. Not because he was special, but because he made a promise to himself and he kept it. So today, I don't want you to remember a dozen things. I just want you to choose one small action and make a quiet promise to yourself. I will do this every day, even just a little. The key takeaway here is simple. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Today, with one small action, you can begin a real change. And now you've come this far. You've explored the power of consistency, from science to stories to strategies. You've seen that small steps really can lead to big results. Now it's time to turn that insight into action. This is the final part, a call to action and reflection, so that you don't just listen, you begin. You've just spent nearly 30 minutes for yourself. Not to be entertained, not to scroll mindlessly, but to pause, to learn, to understand how small steps can lead to big change. And if you've made it here, to the very last minute, I believe one thing: you don't want to live your life stuck in the same old habits. You want to change even just a little each day. But you don't need to change everything. You just need to start with one simple thing. Write down one small commitment for today. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. You've reached the finish line and the starting line all at once. Now it's your turn. Go begin. For example, I will learn one new English word right after this video. I will stand up and walk around the house for 3 minutes. I will open my notebook and write one random sentence in English. And if you feel ready to share, write your commitment in the comments below. Because when you write it down, you're no longer alone on this journey. You'll see hundreds of people just like you starting again with something small. And your small act of sharing might just inspire someone else the same way you were inspired today. One final lesson. Consistency doesn't make you perfect. It makes you real. It makes you honest with yourself. And that's where true change begins. If this video helped you, please hit like so the algorithm can help spread it to more people. And hit subscribe if you want to keep walking with me through more stories about learning English, growing yourself, and finding depth in the simple things of life. Thank you for staying until the very end. Hold on to your consistency, gentle but steady, and remember this: the smallest thing you do today might just be the biggest thing you ever do for your future. See you in the next video.